Summit. In this episode of the Defence Make in India Summit, an esteemed panel of key industry leaders and policy makers deliberated upon the prospects of promoting MSMEs in defence production.
If I could ask Secretary to make some opening comments, because everybody wants to hear you, in terms of the role that MSMEs can play in light of the new DPP that has been unveiled. Then after that, each of the panelists can make some generic comments. I'm going to throw some general questions. Articulate your viewpoints.
In what context entrepreneurship of MSMEs are different in the defense setup than in normal setup? To my mind, there is a sole criterion. While quality is very important for anybody to survive, in the setup of defense, there is no chance of a failure. That means I have to be the best, because my equipment, my contribution, my component or whatever I do is going to the defense industry. So therefore, the margin of failure becomes very, very small, and therefore the amount of care that must go into this production has to be of a very high order. On the MSME side, there is one particular policy that we are taking up or has been there for a while, which may help my defense people. This is our emphasis on zero effect, zero defect and training for the lean manufacturing policy. There is something called a public procurement order in 2012, which became advisory till 31st March 2015, and with effect from 1st April 2015, it has become mandatory. That means every government organization in central government, every entity and every CPSU has to mandatorily procure at least 20% of the annual procurement from micro and small enterprises. Therefore, this particular policy, which is getting tested, and when the data flows into us after the 1st April 2016, will be in a position to see what remedial action would be taken on that, would be a big help, big hope, and very optimistic step that has been planned by the Government of India. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Pujari. No wonder you're one of the most articulate secretaries in the Government of India. Lieutenant General Thurge, if you could just sort of take some of the more general questions. What has been your experience, the Indian Army's experience, when it comes to making some acquisitions from the MSME sector is concerned?
See, one of the experiences which I have had as far as the MSMEs are concerned, the serious players are limited. The people who are actually coming forward to sustain are generally the guys who are just trying to come into the thing for a quick kind of a profit. We are looking at quality, and we are looking at an item which should not fail. And that's where the problem lies. Whilst I can look at MSMEs supporting us totally, because major industries are very few which are getting into the defense production, major concern after buying a platform is the sustenance. If I buy an item for ₹1, I'll probably spend ₹5 to maintain it over its lifetime. So there is a huge scope for MSMEs to continue to maintain this. But then we always get into the problem of the L1 and the Q1 and all kinds of things. So there is a kind of a gap where there's no assurance that he will continue to get the orders and continue to sustain this particular thing. But so long as there's a quality, so long as there's an assurance, and what we're looking at the change in the new policy, which I'm sure DPM is underway, where we look at a 3 years or 5 years kind of a relationship with the suppliers. And that's actually going to be a game changer as and when that is enunciated as a government policy.
Colonel Kuber, comment on that. In fact, Colonel Kuber worked on the first procurement policy that was written, so it was glad to have you on the panel, sir. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that the first policy was meaning to do in terms of vision. Has the latest DPP been able to bridge that to some extent?
If India lives in villages, the industry lives in MSMEs. And this is a fundamental aspect of MSMEs. We have been providing a lot of lip sympathy to the MSMEs, at least in the defense sector. Everybody, right from the top to bottom, everybody comes and talks MSMEs. But there is no policy initiative at all None of the DPPs have even a word of MSMEs. I'm seeing the DPPs from 2002 onwards. Only in 2012, for the first time, that there was a multiplier introduced into the offset policy for enabling MSMEs at 1.5 multiplier. 2006 onwards, you can ask anybody sitting in this forum, any of the industry people sitting in this forum, the energy in the MSMEs has been increasing. Why? Because they had an offset policy. They could interact with somebody who will give them business. The government anyway doesn't give business. So they had to interact with the OEMs. The OEMs were looking forward to MSMEs. OEM know all this. It's one very interesting thing that I see in the DPP 2016, and let me be as candid as I can to say that it is just because of the RM's, the Raksha Mantri's personal intervention that it is happening. That, in the make procedure, there is, for anything less than 10 crores, there is some reservation in the make 1, and in the make 3, less than 3 crores for the MSMEs. So, we have seen some good initiatives, but I think a lot more needs to be done. There is to be a focused development. We have got to enable the MSMEs, and enabling MSMEs is by mandate.
Dr. Ramarao, you've had a large involvement of the MSME. I think there's 700, 800 MSMEs, that you've worked with. What more needs to be done to ensure that the 700, 800, you have even more participation from the smaller guys in some of the crucial programs of the DRDO?
MSMEs are expressed. We had a number of meetings with a lot of MSMEs. They say, you allow us to use your facilities, because some of the facilities are very complex, very expensive, very difficult for MSMEs to own and operate. So that we have made provision now in DPP that DPSUs and DRDO laboratories will provide MSMEs the required facilities for their use, maybe on a notional payment terms, whatever it is. This is one big input for MSME. They don't have to wait and create a facility for testing and validating. Second is, we have also told MSMEs to go to our research, not only just development and production. So they have gone to academic institutions. And whatever money they spend for research, development, prototyping will be some way reimbursed by government. These are another big input for MSMEs. I think these are the two major inputs to MSMEs.
Arvind, come in on that. You're the only guy, like you heard from everybody, but you're the one who's on the ground. You're exporting 90% of high technology equipment to different militaries around the world. What has been your experience on the ground? And be as candid and honest as possible, because the MSME secretary is sitting right here.
So the way MSMEs have worked in India is, they have been contract engineers for DRDO or for public sector, right? DRDO, public sector says, I'm supporting you, so therefore I'll give you a contract, please do this engineering, give it to me, I'm giving you money, and we'll do this repeatedly. You don't create a country or you don't build an ecosystem that way. You need to be able to build products right from scratch. Now, there are only two ways to build products from scratch. Either the government funds it, which is like how the US government does, or you raise private capital. So I said, I'm not going to be a starving MSME working for 20 years, doing this stuff, sitting in a factory in Peenya in Bangalore or some other place, and saying, my sons, my granddaughters, all of them will work here. This is going to be the Apple of the electro-optics industry. I'm going to raise venture capital money. This is going to be a product company which will supply products. I'm not interested in doing services. I'm not interested in doing contract engineering. And most importantly, where I differ from all of them, I do not want reservation. Right? You be good, your products will sell.
This issue of buying the best or the second best, okay, and especially if the choice is between a foreign supplier and a domestic supplier, how do you reconcile?
Our approach, as far as the MGO's branch is concerned, that is where we do the sustenance, is to go in for more of the Indian products, even if they are slightly, say they fall short of a particular expectation. We can improve it as we go by. But that's the way we'll have to do if we want to enhance our MSME standards to go up, to give them an opportunity. If I'm going for the best, if I look into the net, compare, and I want this best, then I have to be ready to pay 2 to 3 times the cost. The budget is always under stress. I have to make both ends meet. And so it becomes out of compulsion, but I still would take a chance that I will go in for a particular thing like a tank track. If I have to get it from Russia or I manufacture it here, I get it better, I'll go in for the better one.
I think so. It's been a fantastic campaign and the industry is loving it. And as you can see, there's a lot of fanfare in this event also today, that the foreign companies, the private Indian companies are really looking forward to this campaign, and they believe that now the change is about to come in.